everywhere. Got it. Okay. We'll just get started here in just a second. We're just letting people in. So we'll get going on this beautiful, I hope it's beautiful weather where you are. It's a pretty nice spring day here in the Reno area of Nevada. So we've got a great presentation later on today. So all right. Well, hello, everyone. Hopefully, there will be a few that still join us, but welcome back, hopefully, to our learning collaborative about the national strategy and developing leadership skills that will help us implement it. Some of you are new to lifespan respite and or are new to the national strategy, and we have several resources available on the Arch website under our Learning Collaborative tab. So that will, help you acquaint you with the national strategy and lifespan respite's role in bringing the vision of the national strategy to life. And so today's topic is yet another attempt to move us forward on so that, the common challenges don't trip us up and prevent our forward movement. So let's look over at the agenda. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. If you would, please put your name, state, and organization into the chat. And we're going to just quickly review the agenda for today. Jill has a few announcements, and we'll want to review again the task that we hope you will participate in, the updates on the lifespan respite activities that align with the national strategy. As you know, the Administration on Community Living, ACL, is looking forward to seeing our report on efforts for this past year. And then after that, we will have a discussion on performance and how it ties into our leadership efforts. And then we'll have some fun in our breakout session groups where we learn so much from each other. And so I will hope that you will all jump in and share your thoughts as well. And then we have a wonderful presentation from our colleagues in Colorado. So next slide. Jill, do you want to review these announcements with the group?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You can see that I have up here again an announcement about the 2024 National Lifespan Respite Conference. I think most of you are familiar with it and probably already registered. But if you have not, I wanted to let you know that as of last night, we have extended the early registration rate availability until April 22nd. It was originally supposed to be April 15th, but we're giving you another week, especially if you're from a state and you're still having trouble getting approval to travel. We know that extra week might be helpful. That is also the date that the hotel block will no longer be available. So if you haven't reserved your hotel room, please do so also by April 22nd. Make sure you have a hotel room at the conference rate. I also wanted to alert you to an upcoming webinar on our cultural and linguistic competence assessment for respite organizations. This was originally scheduled for March, and because of some scheduling difficulties, we had to postpone it until April 29th. We hope that you will have the opportunity to join us in that webinar. It will be presented by Tawara Good from the National Center for Cultural Competence. She is also going to be coming to our in-person Lifespan Respite Grantee Learning Symposium in Albany to revisit the use of the tool and give us all an opportunity to become more familiar with it at that meeting. But because it's a very rich document, it might be worth attending the webinar even before we have a second presentation on it at our grantee meeting. I mean, again, you do have to pre-register, and I'll put the links to all of these in the chat after I'm done speaking. Again, alerting you to the fact that we also are having a virtual component of the Lifespan Respite Grantee Learning Symposium on May 7th and May 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be an opportunity for some of our grantees and coalition folks who can't travel, who didn't want to miss the ever popular Bring, Brag, and Borrow session. So we're doing that virtually. But it does involve some deadlines and a little bit of work on your part. We do ask that everybody designate one person from their state to do their 5-minute presentation, highlighting one of their lifespan respite grant activities or coalition activities. And we're making an additional ask this year too, that the activity you choose in some way can be aligned with one of the goals of the national strategy to support family caregivers. So if you can let us know which goal it is you're working on and the one activity that you're going to talk about, how it does help advance the national strategy, that would be helpful. The deadlines for this are, it would be very helpful if you could let us know at least what topic you're going to present on by April 23rd. The reason for this is that we'd like to group when you speak by topic and maybe even by national strategy goal, if it falls out nicely that way. That way you'll know in advance, at least a few days in advance, when it is you're going to be speaking. And that'll be very helpful. And then if you actually have materials that you're going to share, whether it's your 3 PowerPoint slides or a video or a document or something else that you're going to be bringing with you, if you could make sure we have a copy of that by April 29th so we can be prepared to share it from our screen. So those are some deadlines. We have some detailed instructions that I sent around to you, and I'll put a link to that in the chat as well, so you have all that information at your fingertips again. And then finally, you all know about the in-person learning symposium on May 21st. In Albany. The conference starts that evening with a dinner opening session, but we'll be meeting all day from 9 to about 3:30 or 4 that day to have some presentations, to talk a little bit more about the cultural and linguistic competence assessment tool, to talk a little bit about the respite provider training, to hear from our federal project officer, Lori Stahlbaum will be joining us. So it's going to be a great day of events, and we'll be talking more too about activities that help you advance your work with the national strategy. So we'll be continuing some of our work at the grantee meeting as well. And again, to register for that meeting, it's a separate registration from the national conference, and it requires a code because we don't want everybody registering for that. It is a by invitation only meeting. But I'll make sure that you have the link to that and the code for it so you can register if you haven't done so yet. We really appreciate you registering for that, even though there is no additional charge for that meeting at all. Anybody have any questions about any of those events or requirements or due dates? Okay, great.
Hopefully we'll see everyone in those events. They are a favorite. They're fun to hear about all the great ideas. All right, so the next slide is on our national strategy matrix. Now Jill has distributed a helpful matrix that showed past recorded activities and leaves a column for you to add to the record anything missing or activities that are planned or are being implemented that most closely correspond with the national strategy goals identified. And if you don't have that yet, please let us know. Jill can probably put that in the chat. But we do need your help, and we do have a deadline, May 15th. The bullet points, if you want to do bullet points, that's acceptable, but please schedule some time into your work life soon to complete this task. We really appreciate your contributions. Jill, did you want to talk to any questions or concerns that you've heard from the group?
I haven't
on the
heard
strategy?
a few people have even sent us their updated matrices already. So thank you very much for that. I mean, I know we're asking you in the Bring, Brag, and Borrow session to highlight one of these activities, but the matrix gives you an opportunity to talk about whatever it is that's in your work plan that you're working on around the national strategy. And again, we're going to be sharing some of these bullet points immediately with the Nashby Raise Council Dissemination Center in June, because they are preparing right now a progress report on what states and communities and federal agencies have done so far with their commitments to implement the national strategy. And they want to hear from us with some initial highlights from everything that you all are doing as lifespan grantees and coalitions. So the reason we need the May 15th deadline is so we can share that in June. And then once we complete all our work with this national strategy collaborative, Cheryl's going to be working to review all of the materials and all of the wonderful presentations we've had and prepare a report that will also be delivered to ACL and to the Raise Council about our progress with advancing the national strategy that we'll be delivering to the Raise Council in September. So there's kind of a two-tiered approach to sharing this information with the federal level folks. And it gives us a lot of opportunity to provide some input and feedback. And I see Lori has her hand raised. Do you want to comment on something or say hello?
Oh, hi, everybody. I always love to say hello. I was just like, well, I was looking at this, a report of the work that's either current, ongoing or catching up or whatever, because I know everybody's doing a lot of great stuff. And is the report going to be a part of NASHB's? That's all you're meaning, part of NASHB's thing, or a Cheryl's writing a separate report.
It's two things. NASHB has asked us to contribute in June to the report that they're preparing with just some bullet highlights. We, as part of our Arch work plan, was to develop a thorough summary of everything the Learning Collaborative worked on this past year and a half.
Cool.
And again, use our matrix to document the progress that grantees have made, and then share it with you all, and hopefully you'll be able to share it with the Raise Council in more depth, a more in-depth report.
Well, and as I like to always add, and the Grandparent Council.
And the Grandparent Council. I thought they had merged into one council now, no?
No, Congress has kept them separate, and
okay. I should know that. I apologize.
No, but I know so many of you all are doing work, of course, across the lifespan, but also targeting, grandparent and kin caregivers. So I just want to, I know that council would also be interested in any of that kind of information. So very exciting. Yeah. I get all excited.
No, absolutely. If any of you are working on, and I know, just like Lori said, some of you have targeted grandparents and other relatives for respite assistance. So please feel free to add that to your matrix. And even if that's something you want to highlight in your Bring, Brag, and Borrow presentation, that would be great too. We'll be compiling all of that information.
That's awesome. Thanks, everybody.
In a way that's most useful to everyone at ACL.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lori and Jill. All right, so let's get into our presentation, little discussion on performance. So positive work environment, from the smallest to the largest. Most organizations have one shared goal, and that's to improve their outcomes or the results. And so improving performance requires considering a particular process or a procedure, and then modifying it to increase output, efficiency, effectiveness. And to do this, organizations most often focus on efficiency in the workplace. And enhancing efficiency is not to be confused with doing more with less. Improving efficiency in the workplace is about helping employees work smarter, not harder, right? So figuring out how to work efficiently can improve productivity, growth, and outcomes with the same resources. And there are several factors that affect employee efficiency and productivity in the workplace, such as the work environment, job satisfaction, training, the culture. But what's the use of improving work efficiency if you don't have an end goal in mind? So goals are the lifeblood of any aspiration. It gives you something tangible to strive for. So setting realistic goals can help maintain motivation, inspire new ways of working and to create a altogether more efficient workplace. And of course, not surprisingly, unreasonable goals with impractical deadlines can help people feel lethargic, disheartened, unproductive. So whether it's for yourself or for those that your employees, make sure that the targets that you set are attainable within your time frame to help keep morale high and efficiency in the workplace kicking into gear. And here's some tips to help keep a positive work environment. Benefit of the doubt is the state of accepting something or someone is honest or deserving of trust, even though there are doubts. You know, he might be lying, but we have to give him the benefit of the doubt and accept what he says for now. Generosity is generous people share information readily. They share credit often and give of their time and expertise easily. I feel like our network does that very well. But what comes across is a really strong work ethic, great communication skills, and a willingness and ability to collaborate. Speaking well of others. Gossip is juicy and it's fun to know what everyone's talking about, and it may feel good in the moment, but it almost always is something you'll regret later. You know, bonding over, a mutual distaste or bitterness for someone else just isn't charitable or kind. It's better if you overlook other people's imperfections and faults and seek to find and praise their virtues, their good qualities, their gifts, their talents instead. Look at what works. We have to be intentional about the things we do and the way we spend our time, right? So through your daily choices and actions and decisions, you're deliberately crafting a work life that's more on your terms. And that will look different for every person. So instead of cookie cutters, focus on what works. If it's working, great. What hinders a work environment is looking at how other people are doing things and thinking that's what we need to do also. It's one thing to learn from others and to improve as a result, but it's another thing to see what someone else is doing and then feel bad about ourselves because we're not doing or not able to do those same things. Next slide, please. Okay. Direction is the process of assigning tasks or delegating responsibilities in the workplace. It's a key part of leadership, and getting direction makes people more efficient and content in their jobs. Without direction, it's challenging to understand what you're supposed to do and how to complete the tasks assigned. So a job of a supervisor is to help employees navigate their responsibilities, but it is challenging to provide direction for a variety of reasons. In some cases, your supervisor may be unable to communicate effectively with you because they have a large number of responsibilities. That may include directing a large team of other employees who also might need and require guidance. Some supervisors may truly have trouble communicating or have a different communication style than you. And if this is the case, it may be helpful to find ways of communicating that work for both of you. I just talked to a guy who works with an 80-member team with staff members from South America, China, Indonesia, Africa, the Netherlands, and they're all speaking English, but he has trouble catching all that is said. And he has requested that like work instructions be sent to him via email written so he doesn't miss anything important. Some supervisors may provide little guidance to their employees because their leaders aren't providing them with guidance. They may also lack the training required to complete their responsibilities. Your supervisor may appear uninterested in your work because they have a different or a more self-guided style of work. And in these cases, it can be helpful to communicate with them and tell them what you require to do your best work. And if you find that you need more direction to be successful in your role, identify what you need. Analyze your performance to determine whether it meets your own predetermined standards. Ask questions and try to increase that interaction with your supervisor. Next slide, please. All right, the power of direction. So use the power of direction by ensuring that all employees know their tasks and that they have the information needed to complete them. Make them aware of the organization's goals and help them understand their role in achieving those goals. Direction from supervisors is also a vital part of incorporating change and adapting to new priorities, new tasks, and new technology. So we can look at the national strategy in kind of that way. Direction improves our job satisfaction by helping the staff feel more comfortable in their job when they know how to complete their tasks and contribute meaningfully to their teams. Direction also helps staff members know that their supervisors care about them and want to help them succeed. Think about coordination. Coordination between staff members is often an important part of maximizing productivity and creating a strong team identity. Direction ensures that every member of the team is aware of the project goals and the work expectations, and it can also help to avoid confusion by ensuring that all staff members receive the same instructions so we know where we're going. So direction provides motivation for teams. They can set goals and give everyone something to work for. And direction provides many benefits that will help improve the company culture. It can provide meaning at work, improve relationships between staff and supervisors, and determine goals to improve some collaboration. These benefits can help build a work atmosphere that embodies teamwork and productivity and growth. Direction can also help with accountability in a workforce by ensuring that every member of the team knows their responsibilities, and it makes it easier to fix obstacles to productivity and to recognize the accomplishments of the most valuable team members. So I have a polling question for you. And this is going to be connected to the national strategy. When you think about your work activities connected to the national strategy in some way, how was that work conveyed to you? Did you design your own work plan? Did you receive a detailed work plan listing your responsibilities? Did you work with your colleagues to determine the work plan for you? Maybe you have not received a work plan as yet, or you're not sure whether your work aligns with the national strategy, but that sense of in your work activities connected to the national strategy, how did you get that work conveyed to you? Okay. All right, so it looks like is there anyone still trying to respond?
We've got 11 out of 16 voting, so I don't know if anybody still wants to vote. Let's give them another 10 seconds.
Okay.
I think those of us who are co-hosts aren't able to vote because
Oh,
I'm just
are
seeing the
there?
results.
Oh, really? Okay. Then we'll end the poll.
Okay. Okay, so most of you are working with your colleagues to kind of determine the work plan for you. Okay, very good. All right, that's wonderful. Some of you have had to kind of step into a leadership role of your own and design your own work plan and make sure that you're aligned with that. Did we share the results? I don't
I
know
did.
what you guys
I
can
thought you
see.
were done. You want me to share them again?
Here, let's see. Did we get it? 17% designed their own. 83 had colleagues help them work on a plan. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, I'm just making sure I write down those numbers. All right, so let's talk about constructive feedback. Um, Constructive feedback is the type of feedback aimed at achieving a positive outcome by providing someone with comments, advice, suggestions that are useful in their work or for their future. The outcome can be faster processes, improving behaviors, or even identifying areas of weakness, uh, gathering fresh perspectives, etc. So feedback can be given in different forms. Both praise and criticism can play a role in constructive feedback. Providing feedback is necessary to help employees improve their skills and performance. It's easy to do when the input is positive, but what do you do if you need to deliver a critique or change an employee's behavior? Delivering a critique and discussing areas that need improvement can lead to diminished motivation, negative feelings, disengagement. So, good constructive feedback should focus on the work rather than being a personal negative attack against an individual. So, let's look and see how praise and criticism work. Praise is where you show appreciation to your employees for the work they have done. And if an employee has done exemplary work and gone above and beyond to help someone, a thank you and a congratulations can go a long way. By acknowledging their work and showing your appreciation, you can help to reinforce these positive behaviors. Additionally, you can use praise as part of a bigger, larger feedback session. By highlighting the things an employee does well, your message carries extra weight and your employees feel appreciated. And any advice shared as part of the feedback will feel positive. Criticism is harder to navigate. If it's handled poorly, it can lead to an uncomfortable working environment. When critiquing an employee's work, it's imperative to try and not make it personal. Criticism plays an important role in helping people avoid negative behaviors and grow from their mistakes. Proper criticism should be sincere and caring, while also containing a level of importance on why a change is needed. The outcome of criticism should still be positive and contribute to an employee's growth. Um, do not let your emotions get the better of you as criticism levied when you're angry, disappointed, frustrated. It may lose its message. Clarity provides specific information on two key areas of performance. The first focuses on past actions and behavior. This is a time to be specific. Don't speak in broad generalities like, oh, that presentation was not exciting enough. You got to communicate how specific actions contribute to one exceeding, meeting, or falling short of expectations. The second element of effective feedback focuses on the future. It's the opportunity to give direction about what one should do to improve their performance next time. The context means the why. Contextual meaning comes from our backgrounds, our relationships, our experiences, and our aims. During interactions on a performance feedback talk, remember people want to know, what does this feedback mean for me? If you can successfully identify and connect your feedback to people's unique goals, it results in a more impactful message. Composure or the response. So effective feedback utilizes emotional intelligence. Before discussing performance, think about the emotions the person you're addressing are likely to experience. Then craft your message with these feelings in mind. For example, in understanding how they may interpret your feedback about their goals, you can focus the conversation on how their goals can still be won and can still be reached. And this can help reduce their anxiety. Next slide, please. All right, constructive criticism and feedback. They're basically the same. Criticism focuses more almost entirely on the problem. Feedback focuses on recognizing the problem and then working with the recipient to come up with ways to resolve issues, correct problems and move forward. Constructive criticism is a form of feedback that focuses on delivering critique and negative feedback constructively and positively to improve performance or behavior. Constructive criticism is actionable. It's clear. It's beneficial to the recipient. It does not focus solely on the negative aspects of that. So rather than tearing something down, constructive criticism focuses on improving it. A constructive criticism attempts to avoid offending or discouraging employees while still providing detailed comments on what might be improved and provides direction and actionable solutions to the issue being discussed. And although criticism isn't easy, it's not easy to give. It's necessary to ensure employees are satisfied and have opportunities to learn and grow. In fact, most employees want feedback in order to improve, and constructive criticism provides that direction and advice on how to improve. It identifies the specific behaviors that need to be improved in a respectful way to avoid negative feelings and to promote some trust. Poorly delivered feedback typically results in, dismissive or a defensive attitude. And the long-term effects of that may include, decreased motivation, engagement with anything further that you provide in feedback. Constructive criticism inspires rather than demotivates individuals because it focuses on the future progress rather than past wrongs. So therefore, feedback should not focus on previous performance and the punishment of past failures. Instead, managers should provide constructive criticism and work with the feedback recipient to develop the next steps, opportunities for, interesting and worthwhile endeavors and their vision of what they could achieve. Say a situation is that an employee is not meeting deadlines. Oh, wait, let's see. So they're not meeting deadlines. And yet the work is great. Missed deadlines can indicate disorganization or issues with time management. A discussion around missed deadlines provides an opportunity for learning and professional growth. You might say, I'm always impressed with the quality of your work. However, I've noticed that you've missed lately a few deadlines. And I realize this is a very fast-paced environment. I have a few different time management techniques I can share with you. And before we go into that, is there anything that's creating these delays? Because productivity declines might be caused by personal life changes or disengagement. And so, communication can be difficult when employees are afraid to ask questions or discuss concerns. And employees that are chronically late or absent may struggle to self-organize and may already be aware it's an issue. So when discussing this issue, refrain from focusing on the employee, instead concentrate on the impact of tardiness or absence on the employee's performance and offer them your assistance. Say that the work produced often has mistakes. Mistakes happen, but this could indicate weakness in attention to detail. So you would, give specific examples of the work and then highlight strengths first before communicating your concerns. So, I highly appreciate that you always meet deadlines and are passionate about implementing our overall vision in your projects. However, I've noticed that you've missed some details on your most recent projects, and these details need to be corrected before moving on to the next stage. So let's create a thorough checklist of all your deliverables for your next assignment, and then try using that, and we'll follow up and evaluate how that's going. Negative attitudes can create hostile environments, and this needs to be addressed to help preserve a pleasant work environment and team morale. So, to avoid creating an even more hostile situation, focus on finding the underlying cause behind the behavior and offer your assistance to overcome it. So, you might say, I wanted to follow up on some recent observations. Your interactions with me and others suggest you've been unhappy at work. Is there anything I can do? In the future, please come to me with any concerns hurting, your work-life balance so I can assist in finding maybe a solution. Unprofessional behavior sometimes stems from seemingly innocent actions. However, behaviors like gossiping can quickly escalate into a situation that decreases employee morale. If you see an employee gossiping or engaging in other unprofessional conduct, discuss it with them one-on-one. Performance evaluations are a great opportunity to do that, to assess the team's output. It's a chance to address any concerns with an employee. And a great way to do this is to ask the employees how they feel about their performance in areas you think need improvement. Constructive criticism is more likely accepted if the criticism is timely, clear, specific, detailed, and actionable. So be positive. Positive feedback helps employees to be more open to constructive criticism, but it shouldn't be the only purpose in using positive feedback. For example, if positive feedback was only given to make the negative feedback seem less severe, positive feedback may no longer be perceived as genuine appreciation, but rather as a prelude to bad feedback. Sorry about that. Verifications, thank you. Sorry about that. So even though constructive criticism itself isn't always positive, you should give it with a positive attitude and provide some actionable advice. So when providing criticism, give examples of how an employee can improve instead of just focusing on the negative. It gives the aspect of focusing more on the future than on the past. Make it a collaborative experience. Constructive criticism is more valuable when there is a give and take component. The person you're giving feedback may disagree with you. Allow them to question why you feel that way and how they can improve based on your comments. Making it a collaborative experience can soothe negative feelings from receiving a negative feedback because it allows everyone to share their point of view. Obviously, you want to focus on the situation rather than the person. And so focusing on the situation or behavior rather than the person can help prevent the receiver from feeling personally attacked. Using I statements is a great way to do this by starting every phrase with I feel or I understood. You make it clear you're giving your views and opinions, not facts. Be specific. The more specific, the better. So don't make general comments. Instead, describe the concern in detail and provide examples where possible. Ambiguous comments can leave the recipient kind of feeling unaware of the whole problem and therefore unaware of how to improve that, how to take any proper steps to make it better. Keep the conversation private because the feedback and suggestions can have little to no effect if the receiver feels embarrassed. In fact, it could demotivate and discourage them even more. And it's best to convey constructive criticism in private where you can have a conversation without feelings of humiliation. Timing's an issue. Constructive criticism is helpful if delivered shortly after the action. So you're both remember the situation. Waiting too long may render your, input irrelevant and hence unhelpful. However, it may not be appropriate to deliver constructive criticism right immediately after a big presentation or in any situation where the tension or excitement already be high. And then of course, follow up, praise progress and your praise made along the way to show that you're on their side and invested in their accomplishment. And will also show the receiver and allow them to raise any concerns once they've had time to kind of think and understand the critique thoroughly. And positive reinforcement can also help prevent them from relapsing back into old habits and old routines. According to the research, the ideal praise to criticism ratio is 5-1, meaning for every negative comment you make, you need to share 5 positive comments as well. The best managers promote, a recognition-rich environment with praise coming from every direction. When you give a direction and you can see they made progress, and you note that, and everyone aware of how others like to receive appreciation. Not everyone needs, a sign on their door, or but they might like to just have a quiet thank you for all that you do. But this type of employee feedback should be frequent. You know what the recommendation is? Every 7 days. And so, and it needs to be timely, tied to the significance, of the most recent achievement or to the organizational values. I really like your behavior because it helps to reinforce it, right? So I have another polling question for you. And when was the last time you were appreciated or complimented on your work or efforts? And if you were within the past week, great, somebody's doing their job. Within the past month, within the past few months, maybe there was a big event that happened recently. Within the past year, you could think of something that was a deal, or that you just really can't remember. All right, we've got 13 out of 15. That probably is pretty good. All right, I love that. 86% within the past week, 14% in the last month, and we haven't had to wait a year to hear somebody say something good about it. So about our efforts. So I'm really grateful to hear that that's the case in Lifespan Respite. All right. Did everyone see that? All right. It doesn't have to be public praise or even given by a supervisor, but someone who, gives you clear recognition for the work and efforts that you make. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, here's our discussion group. So we'll move into this quickly. We took a little bit more time at the beginning, but I hope this will be fun. We're going to, I have a story for each group to read. Introduce yourselves in your groups, and then just dive into the conversation. We'll break up into 3 groups. Jill, please do your magic. All right, we should be coming back. Is everyone back? We've got room 1. Is anyone in room 2 back yet?
The rooms will automatically close in 20 seconds.
Okay, all right.
Can you guys tell me, like, the room that I was recording, will it automatically stop coming back into this larger group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it may not, but don't worry, I'll edit it out.
If it continues, we'll have an extra recording, no problem. All right, did we get everyone back? All right, I hope you had some good discussion regarding these unfortunate grant writers here that we've just discussed, and thinking about how you would address some of the challenges and the barriers that they faced for future efforts together. So, all right, did we get everyone back? Very good. Jill, next slide. We've got two ladies from Colorado who have graciously donated their time and efforts to describe their progress in pulling together a lifespan respite plan for their state. It's a fascinating journey, and Amy Harris and Megan Mettner are here to share it with us. So let's move to their presentation. Give them some time. Amy, are you taking it away?
I am. I think I am. Yeah. Okay. It's Megan. Yeah. I'm Megan Bettinger. I'm with Colorado Respite Coalition. Right now it's, well, I'm going to say that later, but right now it's me and a program assistant. So we're having fun together. So just a quick background. Go ahead, next slide, please. So Colorado Respite Coalition had different, it's evolved. So, but basically the one that we know now was formed 12 years ago. And the goal is to strengthen the lifespan respite care and resource network for family and professional caregivers across the lifespan in the state of Colorado. So our primary funding is the lifespan respite grant. And we also have dedicated state general funds. And I'm probably going to get the number incorrect, but it's usually about $350,000. And we use those funds kind of seamlessly. We just kind of, it works well. So the grants are administered by the Colorado State Unit on Aging, which is where Amy is, and Easter Seals Colorado / Colorado Respite Coalition is the fiscal agent. So what we do with the funds, we provide training and education for family caregivers. We do networking and support for professional caregivers, and we're expanding the respite resources available to all caregivers. And I'm going to break those out for you. So, go ahead, next slide, please. Okay. So some of the programs that we are providing. The first one is called stress busting. I don't know if anyone is trained in doing stress busting, but it's a 9-week class for family caregivers. There are two programs. There's the dementia program, and then there's chronic illness program. And we just, as a team, just kind of decided that it would be just more efficient for us to do the chronic illness program. And we hold one session, which is 9 weeks long, each 6 months. So right now, Amy and I are in the starting the 4th week of this 9-week process, 9-week class. We have the biggest class we've ever had. There's 12 caregivers joining us, which is, we usually like to have 5 or 6, but it's a really good group this time. They're very vocal and very open to sharing their stories. And I think that's the one thing that is about this program that is so just wonderful, because they make these connections, and then it's kind of turns into like a support group for people. And basically all we're doing is presenting information that everyone knows about stress, maybe just a different, format. And we teach 9 relaxation techniques. So each each session ends with a relaxation technique. And there's so many because not all of them work for any one person. So we do, meditation, breathing, art, aromatherapy, though we can't do that because we're virtual now. Chair yoga, journaling, and there's some others. I think last week was imagery. Yeah, so that's our stress busting class. We hold the license for the training in Colorado. So if anyone wants to be trained, they have to come through us, and we will use funding from the lifespan grant to provide that training for people. Another thing, I'm sorry, I just forgot. What we're trying, a new thing this time is to send care packages to people. That's like how we got people to sign up. So we're offering a $50 value of a journal, a little gift, a little caregiver gift. We haven't decided which one yet. And then we're just going to send them out, I think, in the next couple of weeks. We decided anyone who at least came for 3 sessions can get one. So anyway, so that's our new thing this year that we're trying to do. So the second one is coming up for air. That is tomorrow. And we do 2 sessions a year. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, we have 2 sessions a year. This one is for foster, kinship, and adoptive families. And so they get a free weekend up at Rocky Mountain Village, which is owned by Easter Seals, Colorado. It's I-70 West. It's on the way to ski country. Anyway, it's a great place. So we separate the adults and the children. We have counselors for the children. Saturday is the big day, 8 to 8. They are busy. And they're so exhausted. And then for the adults, we have some learning opportunities and people from the community that have similar backgrounds that they can teach. Like one is grandparents raising grandchildren. She's going to come up to speak. So, and then I'm new this year, I'm offering massage. So they're going to get a free massage as well. But you only have 4 families signed up. So anyway, the next thing we do is quarterly state webinars. The next one is June 5th. Last one in March, the subject was caregiver mental health. And we just we like to bring the local community together and just have a discussion. And they usually go right to the end. They're an hour and a half, and yeah, it's great. And then respite vouchers. I know many states do respite vouchers. So just briefly, the caregiver selects a respite provider, and they must, to be eligible, they must be Colorado residents and provide 40 hours or more of unpaid caregiving. This year, we bumped up the voucher to $800 per family. And the way we work is it's basically first come, first serve. If we make it through the list, then someone who has already had a voucher will be, they are eligible for another one. Next slide, please. Another thing that we do is caregiver trainings and support groups. So off to the left is our lovely friend Nadine. She held a virtual and an in-person tea party, and they talk about caregiving issues. Her company is called the Caregivers Guardian. She is fantastic. So she just is very good at bringing people together. So we have several other people that we have do trainings and support groups. And that's generally paid through the state funding that we have. Again, and then through the state funding, we do grants, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then New Adventures, this is like my little baby. So this is my, yeah. So it started last year. I was funded through ARPA fund. funds and through the state of Colorado, the HICPUF state program. And the goal is to reach out into rural parts of Colorado. We're learning. This is the second year, and we learned a lot of lessons last year. But and the other great thing about this is we contract with nursing programs, and we are offering clinical hours to the nurses. So it's basically no cost for the staff. And then we have a supervisor that's an RN, and then usually their instructor is there. So there's everyone is safe, everyone is background checked, and we just provide it's usually 10 to 3 on a Saturday. So let's see. Oh, and then another thing is we before COVID, we had some really great regional respite coalitions in the state, and just everything just kind of fell apart. So we have a really big one that basically got started from one of our quarterly state webinars, which is great. And they're very active. And then I don't know if anyone's familiar with Colorado, but it's on all the way on the west side of the state towards it's in Grand Junction. And then we had another one that contacted us recently, and this one is getting off the ground really quickly too, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. So yeah, so this is me, and I've been here since 2020, like kind of the end of the summer. Yeah, so Amy came, very interesting that my supervisor, my director left, and then it was just me. And then the administrator at the state retired, and so they hired Amy, and that was the beginning of our team. We've clicked very well, and so we're just learning a lot, continuing to learn, and we're going to talk about that more. And if many of you may know Erin Myrant, she left. So we have a new program manager starting on April 16th. And then growing up, my mother had diabetes, and she wasn't doing very well. So as a single mother, and I'm an only child, so I did watch her a lot, and and then now just as an adult, I have to looking after my father, but he lives in another state. So that's me. Next slide, please. And Amy's next.
Hi, I'm Amy Harris, and just like Megan said, I took on the role of the Contracts and Grant Specialist for the State Unit on Aging in August 2021. I was a caregiver for my grandmother, who had dementia for several years before she passed away, and really it was my care for her that led me to the SUA. And I don't know if you can hear the printer going behind me. Can you? Okay, good. I won't mention it again. I serve someone who's like, this is the best time to print like 100 packets right now. I serve as the subject matter expert on caregiver support in Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, and I'm the project director for the Lifespan Respite Grant. Living in Colorado, I love to hike. I practice and I teach yoga, and I have hiked in there twice. I really love to hike. And I also love to garden, and I have 3 little kitties that I love so much. Next slide, please. So this is our story. So in 2021, the Colorado Respite Coalition was in a really tough spot. As Megan said, we had complete staff turnover, and that we were still in the midst of the devastating effects of COVID-19 on our program. So when the 2 of us got together, we weren't even really sure how to begin, how to even begin to rebuild this program. So we started by just talking to each other. And we started by talking to each other a lot, and we still do. Next slide, please. So starting in August 2021, right off the bat, right when I moved into the position, we set weekly meetings, and we've stuck to them to this day. And once we hired a program coordinator to support Megan, which was Erin, who I have an asterisk here, who Erin devastated us once again by leaving, but we do have another person starting. So we're very, very happy to have Mallory on board, and we're also very happy for Erin moving on to grander things. When we got together, we included Aaron in all of our meetings too. So all of us were all on the same page. And when we got together, we were honest about what we knew. And more importantly, we were honest about what we did not know. And that was kind of a lot. So then we set out to find the answers. And one of our greatest sources of support has been and still is the Arch National Respite Network and its wonderful members. So thank you all for being here. Next slide. So what did we do? We leveraged our lack of institutional knowledge into a fresh start for our program. So instead of just sort of sitting around realizing, you know, gosh, we don't know anything, we don't know what to do, not unlike a young adult realizing that you can buy anything you want at the grocery store now, we realized that we don't have to run our programs the same way they'd been run before. So we started asking questions about, why do we run things this way? Is there a good reason? If there's a problem with how it's being run, maybe we can change it. And so that's the bulk of this presentation, is to run through some examples of how we did that, how we decided to change things and use our fresh perspective and our resources to rebuild the Colorado Respite Coalition. Next slide, please. And then I think we're back to Megan.
Okay, and I'll go quickly. I realize we're running out of time. So one of the examples of change is the respite vouchers. Previously, we had respite vouchers that were only to be used with an approved provider list that we had, and at a set price. So when I started, it was $20. I had no idea that I could raise the rate that we paid. Yeah, it was just like complete shock to me that I could do that. So anyway, I think I raised it to 25. That helped a little bit, but not really. So yeah, so therefore, like, it was really hard to utilize all that money, the funding. So, and then in addition, we lost providers. They just they can operate at that, you know, at that price per hour. Next slide. So Amy, one of her jobs, if she can talk about it, is working with the area agencies on aging, and she knew that they did a participant directed voucher model, and that allows the client to pick their own provider, and it could be a friend, family, or like a neighbor, and not or an agency, but usually most likely it's a friend or a family member. So when we were starting with these quarterly webinars that we started, I think about a year and a half ago, yeah, one of our subjects was the pros and cons of this model. And we did call on so many of the programs in the Arch Network. And so a special shout out to Cheryl and to Lita for participating with us. And we had extensive discussions with Oklahoma and Washington and other learning collaboratives in the network. So next slide, please. Okay, so after all of our research, we did a pilot last year, about a year ago, February 2023, and it would allow the client to choose their own provider. And Erin spent a lot of time working with each client to make sure that they felt like they could use the whole voucher, and that they were finding an appropriate caregiver. But in addition, we also kept our relationship with our providers, and then some of them, let's see. Okay, and then we started out with a $500 voucher. We did raise it to $800. That seems to be pretty good for the families. And we saw twice as many vouchers being used as family caregivers. So we knew that we had done the right thing. So next slide, please. So what does this have to do with leading with the heart? So for us, I think the three of us, Erin and Amy and I, have a strong relationship. We did trust each other. So we worked through every step on those weekly meetings. And we really wanted to make this a success. But So I just say we had trust and dedication and collaboration is what we had. And that's that sturdy foundation that we, built for each other. And yeah, so and I think it's would have been harder, I think, in the long run if we had stayed with the status quo, what we have been doing for years. I think it eventually would have cracked or something. But so I feel so much better that we are able to offer this respite voucher and that the families have choice. It's just amazing, really, that it's just great to see. So anyway, next slide, and Amy.
Thanks, Megan. Okay, second example is those respite grants we were talking about. So we're lucky, we get money from the state and most of that money is supposed to be directed to giving grants to respite organizations to provide low cost or no cost respite to the populations that they serve. So we had this established process, but we noticed that sometimes our grantees ran out of time to spend their funds because the way it was set up, the old way that it was set up, they only had about 9 months to spend the money. So we thought, I don't know, can we change this? Can we change the timeline? Can we change the grant application process? Like, what are we allowed to do here? Next slide, please. And then we remembered that we're the ones in charge, so we can do whatever we want. So we reworked the timeline to extend how long grantees were able to use the funds by 2 months. And that did mean more work for us because now we have to work in tighter, more compressed timeframes for some of our reporting and our contracting and our duties. That first year, we also kind of threw off the timeline because it was such an established process. Some of our grantees were so used to, the grant being due at a later time than we made it for the new year. So we did have a couple folks that missed it, and we thought we had communicated well to them, but clearly we hadn't done a good enough job because they totally missed out on being able to apply for funds that they were used to being able to apply for. So we apologized and we did better the next year, and we made sure that we had better communication. And for those that were funded, the longer deadline meant that there were fewer funds awarded but unspent, because that was a problem we were seeing with that compressed timeline. Sometimes these organizations were like, we just don't have enough time to spend this money, and then we'd have to scramble to figure out what to do. So we ended up having more respite as a result of changing the process. Next slide, please. We made a couple other little changes while we were at it, and I do encourage you to read this woman's shirt because it's really funny. It's a definition of geezer. We made a couple of other helpful changes, which was we changed our billing procedures so that our grantees could bill more frequently. That really helped for the smaller organizations that really need to see that cash flow. And we also invited new evaluators into the process. We changed the maximum amount of the grant so that it was actually a little lower so that we could spread the love around to more organizations. And we developed a process to reallocate. If someone was saying, alert, alert, I can't spend all my money, we developed a process to get those funds to other organizations so they could spend it down to make sure that it didn't go to waste. Next slide, please. So what does this have to do with leading with the heart? Well, for us, this example, it really comes down to doing the right thing, even when it means it's the harder thing to do. It was more work on us. It made timeframes tighter. It made it harder because we were changing a process. And so we had to go through some bumps in the road. But in the end, we ended up getting more people access to respite than we had before. And that is really what it's all about. Next slide.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so the third example is we had these strategic planning sessions. So when we inherited an ambitious work plan in, I think, 2021. And yes, and it didn't match with the current state of the world. So we had to adjust it because there was just simply no way to get some of these tasks done. So we last year we kind of met in the summer. This year we met in February and March, just Amy and I. So we're trying to really just review the work plan, make sure that it's something that we can accomplish and complete instead of, trying to spin our wheels trying to figure out how we can do some other things. And as you all know, we're like a small group or small team. So there's only so much you can do. So next slide, please. So we are trying always to align our work plan with the national strategy. So it's yeah, that's basically it. We use it to determine which activities to step away from and which ones to keep, and if new ones to add. And then we do listen at the meetings and take notes. So we incorporated ideas that we learned from our from Arch and all these learning collaboratives that we have. And one of the examples is we're working on a caregiver mental health program. And that is inspired by Alabama. So next slide, please. We're going to talk more about that later. So Amy and I met at the Denver Botanic Gardens. It was beautiful. Just 2 really beautiful days to go there. We didn't meet outside though. We met in the cafeteria. So we really did pat ourselves on the back, so to say, because we did accomplish a lot in the last grant year. And we're very busy. There's not a lot of time to, review. And so it was nice to really kind of just sit down and make the plan. And like we said in the last slide, it's a living document, the work plan. And so we're constantly trying to improve it and make it work for us. Next slide, please. So how does this demonstrate leading with the heart? So it reinforced our culture of appreciation and accountability. So again, the venue helped to underscore that we enjoy what we do and we're good at it. So we might as well work amongst beautiful settings. It really was a nice change. Last year we worked in the conference room, so I would much rather be there out in the sun. And yeah, so we're being more conscientious, and so we're making sure that nothing is being lost. So, all right. Next slide, please, for Amy.
Okay, and since we only have 2 minutes, just know I would love to talk more about the marketing plan because this has been a huge and incredible effort. But I'm gonna say next slide. And then just really quickly, this is Allegra, who's like an honorable member of our team. She's not really a part of our team, but she's a consultant, so she's not an employee, but she has also been welcomed into the fold and really cares about what we do, and we love her. Next slide, please. She's done so much. Oh, I wish I could talk about it more. Next slide.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Here's more stuff that she did. I could go on and on. Next slide, please. The Allegro example was just that when you lead with your heart, you tend to work with others that also lead with their hearts. So when we found Allegro, part of the reason why we gelled so much together is because we had the same mentality about leading with the heart. She really cared. She wasn't just like, here, give me some, I'll give you some stock photos and some, some zesty language that you can put on your social media, call it a day. She's way more involved and intricate with us. So that's why it really helps it makes a huge difference to work with someone like that. Next slide, please. So here's the summary. This is what we've learned. Ask for help and help will be given by Arch. Being honest about what you know and what you don't know means that you can get to the solution faster. It's okay to be creative and change the status quo if you know that you can improve processes. Just try. And when you make a mistake, apologize and do better. It's really important to help preserve relationships. Do the right thing, even if it's the harder thing. And like attracts like, this leadership style will attract helpful and committed partners. Appreciate, include, and celebrate your teammates, and work will be a lot more effective and a lot more fun. Next slide, please. That's it. This is our contact information. This is an accessible hiking trail in Colorado at the Easter Seals camp that Megan was talking about, which I just love that picture because it's such a cool amenity. Thank you so much for listening to us. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, both of you ladies. That sounds like a task that was meant just for you two to take on. You guys had it together and pulled it off an amazing rebuilding in Colorado. And we hope you continue to have success. We only have just a couple of slides, Jill, just the last one, our meeting in May, because of all that we're doing in May. We are gonna skip May and we're gonna move our next meeting to June 6th. So you will have, hopefully use that time to work on the matrix or your bring, brag, borrow. So, and to come and see us all in Albany, New York, for the national conference. If you've missed anything, you want to go back and review anything, you know that on the Arch website that we have a Learning Collaborative webpage for all of our recordings and all of our presentations. So I invite you to go look at that. And then if you, and last slide, if you have any comments or feedback, constructive criticism, or any other sort of comments that you want to make, you can certainly reach out to Jill and I. We'd be glad to hear from you. I know we're a little bit over, but I am so grateful for your participation, and hopefully you gain from each other as much as I have gained from you guys, from your thoughts and your commitments to lifespan respite and moving our national strategy forward. So I appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your day, and stay out of trouble in the weather and all that sort of stuff. We'll see you in April, or I mean in Albany, sorry, at the conference. Talk to you soon. Bye.